All right, there we go. Hello, hello. Welcome to the Monday after daylight savings. Wow, what a Monday, but
What a Monday,
welcome, my
right?
darling.
Hi, happy Monday after we lost an hour. I hope you are doing good. I'm excited. I'm going to jump right in if that's all right with you. We have a guest tonight. So the title of our podcast tonight is Back for Seconds. So we have Chef James Berry of Pluck. And he's back for a purpose. So before we bring him on, um, oh, you can bring him on. That's fine. Um, I was going to say we're just two women that have lived the burned out life, right? We've questioned the noise and found our way back to a slower, more human pace. So I'm Sherri.
And I'm Becky.
And we're not here to preach perfection at all. We're here to walk with you as you learn to trust your body, honor your nature's rhythm, and create sustainable health in every part of your life. So, if you're craving conversations that feel grounding and honest and deeply supportive, you are in the right place. So, tonight, we're going to welcome back someone who has become a friend of this podcast and community, James Berry. And he is a chef, functional food founder and pioneer in making ancestral nutrition accessible to modern families with over 20 years experience. He only looks like he's 10. Um, uh, with and he's had private chef for celebrities like Tom Cruise, George Clooney, Barbara Streisand, and John Cusack. James brings both expertise and creativity to the table. He is the creator and CEO of Pluck, the first ever organ based seasoning line designed to help people effortlessly incorporate nature's most nutrient dense foods into everyday meals. James is also an author of the Naked Foods Cookbook and has co authored recipes in the best selling wellness books like Eat Naked by Margaret Floyd and Clean Seven by Dr. I'm going to butcher his name, Alejandro, is it Younger, as
Yep.
the host of Everyday Ancestral Podcast. James has his hands in everything right now, but he also explores how ancient wisdom can inform how we eat, parent, and live in today's world. Now, his work bridges the gap between culinary innovation, regenerative health, and practical wellness, making him a very trusted voice in the food as medicine movement. And after an incredible Organuary 2026 challenge, which I had the honor of winning, we knew we had to bring him back and go deeper. So welcome back.
I just feel like I'm on a podcast of winners right now, right? Not only with such an amazing introduction, but you are a winner, Sherri. You are a winner.
Oh,
Look at that. Oh, I think it was what, $12,000 worth of prizes. I mean, that's just. I'm so happy for you.
yeah, it's been crazy. It feels like Christmas. And I was just telling you before we went live that literally, like, tomorrow, a package is showing up from a Wagyu beef from, is it 3C Jopa?
Yep.
Cattle, yeah. So I'm gonna see if we can get him on. But oh my goodness, it's just my poor husband's like, we got more boxes, and so it's just been fun. It's been a blast. So let's stop for a minute. Let's kind of go back. So you were here with us almost a year ago in April 2025. So for anyone that's new, can you share a little bit about who you are, your mission, your heart behind the work that you do?
Yeah. So I've been a chef for over 22 years, and I basically have been on a mission to try to help people feel better in their bodies. That's ultimately what I'm trying to do. And I've come to recognize that, well, it was actually, as a chef, I was always about flavor, making things taste good, particularly healthy food taste good. But when I became a father, then the emphasis became, how do I get nutrient dense foods into my kids, into myself? How do I make sure that I'm going to be around to enjoy and bask in their development, their lives for all time, as much as I can, at least. And so I identified organ meats, and I recognize that they are the most nutrient dense food on the planet, but I also recognize there were hurdles. The hurdles I identified were, people think they're gross, they're icky, they don't want to touch them, they don't want to cook them, they don't know how to cook them, they don't know where to source them. And then if they do know to take supplements like capsules, they're taking the capsules, but they're not consistent, and or they just really don't know how much they should be doing for themselves. So it's a very impersonal experience and a very inconsistent one. So I was trying to create consistency. And so I created Pluck. That's my solution to the hurdles, which is basically I'm taking the same ingredient that's in the capsules, but I'm pulling them out of the capsule. I'm combining them with salt, organic spices and herbs, and I'm making it a seasoning. So something that you literally, we're taking back organ meats, we're making them a food again. They're no longer just a supplement. And you can literally just, whatever you can salt, you can pluck. And not only does it make your food taste better, that's the chef in me, right? The taste. But as a father, I'm nourishing you with the most ancestral food you can eat, and it's effortless. And for my money, that's what matters, because everyone can be sold something healthy. I'll bring up something that back in the day, Sherri, you may remember it. I don't know if this was prevalent for you, Becky, but there was this thing that Suzanne Summers put out, the actress Suzanne Summers, called the Thigh Master. And when it came out, it was huge. Like everyone was buying this thing. But only like a few months later was it then at everyone's yard sales. So it is this is to me the epitome of what most health is it's a marketing scheme that gets you inspired to buy something, but if you cannot or do not incorporate it into your lifestyle, then it's pointless. It's just snake oil. And so that's what I've set out to do, is to make something that's truly easy, delicious, and thus lifestyle.
So what has been your biggest hurdle moving through this, or the biggest thing that you've learned through this experiment with your own health and the cooking with this?
The biggest changes that I didn't know when I started was because I was just focused on organ meats. But I didn't realize that it would also affect a few other factors. So one is the palate. The organ meats are very umami, particularly freeze-dried powdered organ meats. And umami is our fifth unique taste. So we have the four that we learned in school: the salty, sweet, bitter, sour. But umami is also one, and it was discovered around the 90s, and it's best described as savory or meaty. And lots of foods have that umami flavor. Tomatoes have it, mushrooms have it, meat has it, but freeze-dried powdered organ meats really have it. And so the prevalent flavor of Pluck is umami. And what was fascinating is I started learning that practitioners were suggesting Pluck to their clients, not only for the nutrition, but also to help support picky eater palates. When you have a picky eater, the palate is really skewed towards salty and sweet, because that's ultimately what the standard American diet is. Everything in the grocery store is salty or sweet. So that's the palate. The palate is conditioned toward those flavors. So the way to support a child that has picky palate is to get other flavors in. So the bitter, the sour, and the umami. And so what practitioners were seeing is that as parents just used Pluck, their kids started to eat more adventurously. So that was something I had no idea would be the case. And then the other piece was that I didn't realize that I would kind of come to this understanding of the human motivation, or that's not the right word, like the human kind of human condition, I guess, is the better word. So basically, a lot of people tend to think, particularly in America, they think go big or go home. And we tend to always focus on things that we think have the biggest response. So like, we look for 90-day abs, right? Or 4-hour work weeks. We're always looking for like really intense but condensed time frames. And I've really come to better understand that that's not actually how our human body really works. That the human body is best, and the human kind of emotional reality is that we physically and emotionally, we deal better with things in very micro dosing amounts, or like small amounts. And I use the example of like brushing our teeth, for example. Most people brush their teeth for 2 minutes a day. Imagine if that was 2 hours. How many people would not be brushing their teeth or have really funky teeth? I mean, we can even equate it to like people that have affection issues, So if I said, okay, I need you to hug somebody for 60 minutes every day versus hug someone for 30 seconds every day, right? We will do things when they're in very small amounts, but and this is the key thing, is we'll do them more regularly. We will do them more consistently. And that was a formula that I did not know going into this, but I've really come to understand, like, oh yeah, this is how you make something lifestyle, is you have it be a microdosing amount. So like that's what Pluck is. It's microdosing frequently because you season everything you eat, and it's cumulative effect. And what we find is not only will people adopt it and be consistent with it, but it also really does move the needle. And it's kind of incredible because it refutes this idea that people are like, well, how much am I really getting? I'm like, no, you don't understand. You're focusing on the wrong thing. Focus on consistency over amount. Small amounts do very well as long as you're consistent with them. So duration is really the thing that I focus on now, and to great success. Like I'm so much more consistent. I'm so much more disciplined than I've ever been in my entire life because of that.
And it truly ends up and makes a difference, because we'll use that in, our coaching practice too, right? In order to create a sustainable lifestyle, it's not how much can you do both feet in, all in, but what can you end up and stack in that is going to end up and be achievable. And that's the same way with, getting your organ seasoning in there, which has greatly expanded. But go ahead, Sherri.
Yeah, I was going to say, you have expanded some flavors since you were, you kind of teased the last time you were on, but you've definitely expanded the flavors. And if you want to tell us about those flavors, go ahead. But how, again, are you addressing the people of even the seasoning, right? My husband and I love your seasonings. And it's funny you were talking about, I was taking, before I started using Pluck seasoning, I was taking a supplement, an organ supplement, and I had blood work, and I was high in iron, and they kept coming back going, "Are you taking iron?" And I kept going, "No." And finally I realized it was from the organ supplement I was taking. And when I stopped taking that and then incorporated Pluck seasoning, and I'm very serious about this, I've not had a problem with that.
That's amazing. I really appreciate hearing that, because like I said, what we're trying to do and how we're presenting this, in a sense, real food supplement is different than what most people are being sold. And so I really appreciate that, because I believe that to be true as well. I think first there's a few factors that are in play. I think one is what I've already mentioned, which is little amounts, frequently are the key. The second big one is that you're eating it versus swallowing it. And now you get to control, like you get to let your body dictate the communication around, do I want more or do I want less? And that is huge, because in many ways, the body we're in right now, this is a Homo sapien body. And science tells us this is over 250,000-year-old biology we're in. the foods that we're currently eating in modern society are only about 100 years old. So that's a huge discrepancy, right? But we need to look even deeper than that, because if you think about it, this Homo sapien body, all the communication pathways around survival, around how much you need of what nutrients and what's going to sustain your life, those were all developed within the last 250,000 years. So if we don't utilize the communication pathways that developed to basically answer two very, very important questions. One is this food going to nourish me? The other is, or is this food going to kill me? That is really what our biology communication pathways developed to answer, because the answer to that, the outcome of that was serious, right? If you ate the wrong food, you died. You didn't have, political, you didn't have government overseeing products. You didn't have, nutrition facts and, and ingredient labels, right? So you really had to do a couple of things. You had to use those communication pathways, and how I describe those communication pathways is really your senses. And if I were to take people back and really connect us to how we ancestrally probably would have dealt with food, is just imagine if you're in a forest, you would first visually see something in the distance. It would be something maybe bright, different from the green and browns, right? It would be this bright color. So first you're seeing it with your eyes. That is a communication point. As you get closer, you now smell something different in the air. That's now using this sense of smelling. Now you get closer, it gets even stronger. You go to reach for it, you're now touching it. It feels plump. Communication point. Something's in there. Now you bring it closer, the smell even intensifies more, but you're getting communication from the smell of like, should I take a bite of this or should I not? And it's most likely telling you to take a bite, because flavor or the smell usually equals nutrition. So when something has flavor, that usually means nutrition. So everything in your body is saying, take a bite. You go to take a bite, and now these juices are going down your mouth, around your face, and now everything in your body is telling you, oh no, this is going to nourish me. Now you take a bite, you're chewing, the mastication supporting digestion, but it's also continuing to give you those communication points. The taste buds, now you're swallowing, your body is getting real food, and it's getting really two very key pieces to this equation that if we were building our own food pyramid, this is what would need to be on them. One is you're getting flavor that's found in nature, right? Not natural flavors, but flavors found in nature. And then the other piece is real food, nutrient-dense food that is an ingredient versus has ingredients. So those two factors of communication, your body now says, I'm going to eat this. You finish it, and your body then says, I'm good. I'm done. I don't need another one, right? And if you do take another one, you try to eat it, you find you can't finish it. I don't know, right? But either way, your body is telling you how much it needs and when to stop. And it's all through those communication points. And sadly, nearly everything about our modern life and about our modern food systems refute all of it. So what's happening now is our food is nowhere near as nutrient dense as it was. Where now we have marketing, psychological marketing that's playing to our humanness, right? So that's throwing us off, confusing us. And then we also have foods that have flavors that mimic flavors found in nature, but that aren't natural, that aren't real flavors. They're natural and artificial flavors. And so your body will eat, let's say, a Pop-Tart that has, fortified synthetic vitamins in it, and it says strawberry flavor, but your body thinks it's real strawberries, and it's just waiting for the nutrition that it knows, ancestrally knows strawberries would give, and it never comes. And so it doesn't know when to shut off. It keeps eating. Of course, the ingredients in that Pop-Tart are completely unnatural to your body. And so it's throwing your body off in other ways as well. So we're just caught in this horrible loop where ancestrally we're in this body that develop because of our big brain, but we're also, because of this big brain, we're now in a situation where we're outsmarting or we're chasing, trying to reconnect with our ancestral selves, and doing, in many ways, a horrible job because we've mucked things up so bad because of this big brain.
And you're right. That's where, when we're eating in alignment with seasons and we're eating, that's one of the big things that we end up when we teach in the BNC community is aligning with flavors and seasons, right? Because if not, it's creating kind of this misalignment. It's creating this missed signal that you're talking about as far as, even artificial flavors go, that can end up and happen naturally as well, right? When our body and our eyes are seeing one season, but yet here we're supplying it with other foods, it can create digestive issues. But that's also where tying in some of these other products as well to help with that. And I think you kind of nailed it too, that many people don't associate, and that is the fact of your body stops tasting after, a first few bites, and it starts to just become a reward pathway. The body is seeking that nutrition.
You're just chasing the texture.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Well, and it's interesting too. We find with our clients and our community, people literally don't know what's in season where they live.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's confusing, right? Because I mean, it's funny. I used to kind of promote a lot of seasonal eating as well back in the day, but now it's like it's really hard to tell what is in season because most of unless you're going to farmers markets, really challenging. But even sometimes at farmers markets, it's food that's grown in a what do they call that, hothouse, or what is that called, a greenhouse. Yeah, thank you. So those foods are tricking you into thinking they're in season, but it's just because it's been grown. It's really hard. Like, I mean, where I am on the East Coast now, there aren't farmers markets year round here.
Yep.
In California, they are, but not here.
I'm in Nebraska, so yeah, I get that too. But that's also where I would rather someone eat a food that is potentially grown in a greenhouse than grab a bag of Doritos.
Absolutely. That's kind of why I boil it down, because even ancestral eating, right? I mean, we throw around that word. I throw it around a lot. But if I'm really honest with everyone, it's impossible to eat ancestrally because when we talk about ancestrally, usually what we're talking about psychologically is we're talking about our Paleolithic ancestors. And none of our food systems are the way they were Paleolithically. None, not a single one. So, and I'm not trying to say, oh, well, let's throw the word out. It's like, no. What we do is we just need to take ownership of what we mean. So when I'm saying ancestral, what I'm saying is like, let's eat real food. Let's just define ancestral as real food versus ultra processed foods. And I think ultimately that is the base pillar. I mean, it's funny, and I imagine this is true for you both as well. Like, as I've interviewed people for my podcast, as I've been around for, like I said earlier, over 20 years in this business, there's 4 pillars that they're really ancestral pillars, and you just can't escape them. Like, no matter what comes up, whether it's peptides or whatever the newest trend is, it just doesn't matter, because you have to first be doing these 4 things. You have to be eating real food. You have to be getting good sleep. You have to be moving, and you have to be working on lowering your stress levels. Those 4 things are non-negotiable, really. And people keep trying to sidestep them, but it all continues to go back to those 4 things. So I've just kind of come to realize, like, it's like, I could call it ancestral. We can call it whatever we want, but the basic things we need to do is just eat real food. then you can choose diet. Like if you want to be animal-based, carnivore, keto, paleo, vegan, plant-based, whatever you want to call it, I don't care. But first, just focus on it being all real food. And then you go down your diet path, and then have the diet path will just, all that's going to do is inform you of what's working or not working. As long as you do one very key thing, is you listen to your body versus listening to all the noise around you. Like, because if that influencer is telling you like you should only be eating meat, let's just say, like you should only be eating ribeye and liver, but then you do it for 60 days and you're noticing you're not pooping and you're getting rashes and you're doing that, you're having all these health issues, then that's your body saying, no, this diet that you're choosing right now is not working for it. So I'm all about make sure you have the dignity of your process, that you listen to your body, because that's the one thing that's not going to lie to you. And then just make sure you're eating real food and doing the other 3 pillars as well.
Absolutely. So going back to Pluck, and then I'm gonna move you into an exciting topic. But what has been the most impactful customer experience that has really stuck with you for Pluck seasoning?
I would say we get a good amount of customers who have a Crohn's, or whose kids have intestinal issues and colon issues, and they'll tell us, when you have Crohn's and you've had a part of your intestine cut out or something like that, absorption is really hard and challenging. And they'll report back that Pluck is the only thing that they can do that really absorbs well, where they get the nutrients. And it's just a testimony not only of organs and how nutrient-dense they are, but also how bioavailable. I mean, I've had people tell me that they eat red meat and yet their B12 levels are still low. And only when they started eating organ meats did they go up, did the B12 levels go up. And it just goes to show you that, we can't always just go off of what science is telling us is in something, the nutrient load. We can't always just go off of that. We have to also look at it from a practical standpoint. If you put like muscle meat on the counter at room temperature, and you put liver on the counter at room temperature, and just leave them there for 3 hours, you come back, the muscle meat's pretty much still intact. The liver is melting. It's just like literally liquefying on the counter. So that tells you right there that the structure of the liver is more permeable. It's not a muscle. So it's just, if it melts on the counter at room temperature, that means it's going to be easier to digest. Let's just put it that way. So I'm always looking for these very practical signs, because I'm also of the belief that, well, Bill Schindler, Dr. Bill Schindler wrote Eat Like a Human. He has a great quote that I use a lot. He says, "We are the only species in the world that looks to someone else to tell us what to eat." And it always humbles me when I hear that, because it's like, well, there's like 9 million plus species. So what makes us so special? And my answer is that, well, we're not. We just have this big old brain that has confused everything. And ultimately, the only way to escape the noise that we've created is to go inward. You have to. Like and what's fascinating is that you most likely do have the answers. And we can look at our lifetime and go like, well, when else has this shown up? Like, let's talk about childbirth. When a woman is pregnant with a child, there's that mother knows best kind of concept. And it's true. You talk to any of these births where like the doctors are saying medically, oh, you should do X, Y, Z. And the woman's like, no, I'm going to do STU, whatever it is. And the woman's right. It's like you instinctively know that what your body needs. And when a woman isn't allowed or chooses her own instincts, she usually regrets it, right? Same thing goes for your own body. Your body's constantly giving you, it's giving you answers. It's giving you clues about what it wants or doesn't want. For example, if you're going to grab something from the grocery store and you go to grab it off the shelf and it falls out of your hand, and you go to pick it up and it falls out again. That's a form of muscle testing.
Mhm.
You know, or when you go to, you're going to grab something and your body like starts kind of like, you have flatulence or burping or something, your body is giving you, you know, clues about, hey, this is not what I want. So it's a very different feeling than a craving. But we're getting constant messages, constant. We're just not listening. And or we're depending on someone else's opinion over our own. But like I said, this biology is very ancient. It's very sacred that we're in. And if you think about it on a really deep level, this body also is miraculous and it heals. And so a couple things have to be in place for you to really honor your own internal biology's messages. Is you first have to see yourself as sacred, as precious, as you have to honor your body and yourself, right? You have to honor that, particularly if you're faith-based, like you have to honor that you're a child of God, right? That you know that you have to honor that. The other piece is that you really need to just listen more, and not kind of not just take everything, you know, almost take things as a grain of salt, you know, not take everything exactly how everyone else is telling you what to do. Don't just be like a robot, just say, okay, point me where you want me to go, and to go. It's like listen to what people are saying, but then go inward and say, like, how does this resonate? Does this feel right? What's fascinating about our mindset, and there's a few studies that have been done that are really fascinating. One was this cancer study where there were people that were getting they were getting treatments. Some were getting they were getting like sorry, not radiation, but chemo. They were getting chemo treatments. And so some people were given chemotherapy pharmaceutical. Some were given like sugar pills, you know, the placebo. And what happened was that the people that were given the chemo sugar pills actually had chemo response. So they lost their hair, they had memory stuff, they had all these things that happened. And so did the chemo people, right? But it was what's so fascinating about this study is usually the placebo effect is showing you like, oh, well, this didn't happen to me. That the sugar pill basically showed that you had no changes. But here, this study is really showing the power of the mind, the power that the mind can go positive or it can go negative depending on your frame of mind, your mindset. And so that's why I say it's like the body has the ability to heal. So you have to believe that your body can heal. And if you don't have that mindset, like to me, that's the first question any practitioner should be asking the person they're working with is, do you believe that you can heal? Because if they don't believe it, they're not going to heal no matter what you do. It's the same thing. Like I grew up where there were these two families where the fathers were both alcoholics and they died from their alcoholism. And on a certain level, that's sad, but in another level, it's miraculous because they both lived into their 70s and they started drinking in their 20s. So their body sustained on that, you know, the poison that alcohol is for 50 years. So that shows you, it's like this body we're in, truly, it wants to survive. When we do all the things we're doing that technically are destroying our body, and yet it still endures, it still lives, it still sort of thrives or gets by. That to me is a miracle. And it just shows you just how sacred this body is. So that was kind of a long-winded answer, but I really do believe that we have more abilities than we even give ourselves credit for. We have more answers than we even recognize and acknowledge in our own health journey. And that the only way to access is you got to go inwards.
100%. Quit outsourcing what your internal knowledge knows. And that, you're right, we end up, when we do that all the time, we look, whether it's, nutrition wise or lifestyle, we're so separated from our internal information that many people don't end up and know how to understand it. They're used to looking for symptoms versus, negative symptoms, right? And putting band-aids on, right? I have high blood pressure, right? Okay. Are you under stress? Are you not sleeping? What is the root cause? Instead, let's end up and put a band-aid on it. And so, yeah, it's kind of frustrating because we see it, every day, but
I'm reading this book called The Third Plate, and they were breaking down some of like the history of just agriculture. And it's really fascinating because I didn't connect these dots until reading this book. But this idea of symptom chasing versus root cause, it's showing up in every aspect of humanity. So it's not just in our health, it shows up in agriculture. For example, back in the day, the prairie lands used to have perennial wheat. Like that's literally what they had. So perennial wheat means that the roots underneath the ground are really more extensive than what's outside the ground. And if you chop off what's outside the ground, it will grow back on its own. And yet even though we had best intentions, we had homesteading acts. We had these things historically that happened where we thought, well, we need to plow that down and change that to an annual wheat, which means that it grows and then you have to reseed. So it doesn't even replenish itself. You have to reseed it after. And it also means the roots aren't as deep. It means that they're not as extensive underneath the ground. And so literally, like, this is all prior to the Dust Bowl. We shifted the soils from having perennial crops to then having annual crops. And it destroyed the topsoil. And it literally led to the Dust Bowl. And like I said, the best intentions, but the government was doing that because they were chasing symptoms. If they had looked at root cause, they would have, the minute they saw that they had co-created the Dust Bowl, they would have gone like, oh no, we got to get back to perennial, but they didn't. They just kept trying to solve the symptom. And it's showing up in every aspect of our lives. I mean, you see that even with the wars that are happening now. It's like, it's all focused on symptom. It's not focused on like the bigger picture. And like, it's a very limited scope that they're focusing on, someone's profit or whatnot. And I think even like the poultry industry does this, like they put chickens in cages, the cages resulted in the chickens then starting to peck at each other and hurt each other. And so what do? They don't go like, oh, well, maybe we shouldn't have put them in the cages. Maybe we should go, look at the root cause. Instead, they just go, well, let's just fix this symptom. We'll burn their beaks so now they can't peck at each other. To me, that is a microcosm of everything that's wrong with our systems. And we're paying the price because now food is incredibly less nutrient rich. We're dependent on synthetic fertilizers. We're dependent on hybridized seeds. There's so much that is hurting us. And once again, this symptom hunting, this big brain we have is just, it's killing us literally. And I actually have come to believe that every chronic illness, I would say mostly, and maybe all of it starts with nutrient deficiency. And yet we're clearly not living in a world that is nutrient or calorie deficient. We're very, if anything, overweight, right? So we have too many calories coming in our diet, but yet we're still nutrient deficient. And that's ultimately why I do what I do, is because I'm like, well, I know that even with best intentions, people are eating foods that they think are nutrient dense, but they're not delivering the nutrition that they need. Then what they're doing is they're then supplementing with synthetic vitamins or capsules or whatnot. So my whole mission is, how do I get people to feel better in their body eating these real foods, these nutrient, Mother Nature's multivitamin instead of a laboratory's multivitamin? How do I get people to do that? But I really do believe that, to even what Sherri shared, that once you do, your body will find homeostasis. Your body
Mhm.
will balance out. You just got to do it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I was lucky enough, 2 years ago, I think you did a cooking demo at Hack Your Health. And I was in the audience, and surprisingly, I liked tongue. Would have never fixed tongue, would have never tried it. But of course, here, all eat raw liver, and you pass around the toothpicks, and we were trying different things, but the tongue surprised me the most. And of course, raw frozen liver has no taste. Like
Yeah.
that was, but I had that experience with you, and a lot of people don't have that. So how do you address, because, and I'm going to bring it in, since you were last on, you were on a pretty big TV show, Shark Tank, and so how, I watched the episode. Um, it was really hard to explain to the sharks about why they needed that, or why this was a good product. It was interesting.
Yeah. I mean, and I'll say that was an amazing experience. Mostly because it did what we wanted, which was to amplify our message. That was our want, over getting a shark to invest. But I'll also say that I filmed for about 45 minutes, but you only see about 7. So, but ultimately, to your point, the sharks didn't really get it, or
Mm-mm.
not all of them. And the ones that didn't really see how they could help the brand, because they didn't work with food. But they didn't get it, and I don't think it's because, well, what I came away realizing was that even the sharks really represent, you know, uh, the most of America. Like they're not necessarily any different from most people, which is they don't recognize that the food choices they're making are resulting in chronic illness. They just don't get it. Or they think, well, if I just eat vegetables, that's enough. Or if I just eat meat, that's enough. And it's like, well, it's just proving not to be for most people. For some it might be, but for most people it's not. And so I think I think ultimately I'm just still running up against, when we try to kind of reach everybody, we still run up against people that are just not ready. They're just not
Mhm.
ready to accept or hear the message. But there's so many people that are ready. And so that was a show where we were really trying to just amplify the message. But ultimately, we've just gone back to really speaking to the people that we think are ready to hear it. And what is exciting is that we are, as you mentioned, we brought in some new products. We have even more coming. Um, but what we're starting to do is we're really starting to incorporate even other organs. So like we just had a brain product come out. 2 of them
Mhm.
actually. One is pure brain, but then the other is Cinnabrain, or cinnamon brain. And we're we have coming down the pike, we have a men's fertility that's going to have testicles in it. We have a women's fertility coming that's going to have ovaries. We're going to help get lung into. We're just going to keep trying to help people get these other parts of the animal into their diet, and even other species as well. So like fish, for example, we have a sardine product coming too. So like, to me, it's like, my mission doesn't change just because the sharks, or just because someone isn't ready to hear. There's so many people on this planet that need help, that I will continue to, you know, um, pursue that mission of helping people eat real food. And to that mission, actually, something that we did is we started the year out and everything's getting so expensive, right? But we actually lowered our prices this year. And that's because we've been able to get better pricing on our organ meats. And so we're passing that forward to everyone. And I know it's the exact opposite of what most companies would do. They would just keep making the profit. But I kept feeling very called. I mean, there's really two pieces to my mission. One is, as I mentioned, to help people feel better in their body. And the other is to make this health accessible. And I felt like I was achieving one part of that mission, but when organ meats are so expensive, I feel like I'm failing on the other part of that mission. So we lowered our pricing, and I'm proud to say, like, you can pretty much, if you become a subscriber and you order, a certain amount, like, you can get this down to like 15 cents a serving. So it can be very doable. People just have to be open. They have to be open to trying it, and they have to be open to valuing their health enough and this way of healing that they see the benefit of spending their money on this versus, I don't know, some other health paradigm or even some tech thing, because people are spending the money. There's no doubt they're spending the money on something. The question is just, what is it for? Entertainment? Is it for tech? Is it, what is it? But sadly, it's usually not for their health.
Yeah, definitely. So if you didn't have any barriers or anything like that, what would you create for Pluck? Like doesn't matter the cost, doesn't matter anything. Like, poof, what would you do?
Wow, yeah, that's a great question. To a degree, I am doing everything that I wanted to do. It just, if anything, I just wish it could go faster. But um, I really see three. Well, let's see, one, two. I see about four paths. So one is the beef organs we're currently doing. I recognize, though, that not everyone can do beef, so I have a poultry line that I want to do as well, but I'm having trouble sourcing it. Because not only do you have to find the quality of poultry, you also then have to find a place to get it freeze dried and powdered and all that stuff. And it's just, the supply chain is really challenging here in the US, but I'm working on that one. We have what we call a marine blend coming, because I believe I'm really I really think seafood is important as well. I'm not just all about land animals. I really do believe sea animals are important too. And or I should say sea mammals, but like so I want to get the marine products into people, and that includes seaweed as well. And then I also believe that we should do other species like elk and bison. But I want to just continue to support people in getting a variety of species, the parts of the animal that are not just muscle, so as much of the other parts, and then making sure it's all real food, that it's not synthetic, or it's not isolates. It's not some of the things that you see coming up in the industry, and the protein powders and stuff like that. I'm more interested in, the minerals and vitamins of it all, not just the protein. But diversity to me is really important. I've had visions of, like, I would love to see this product available to people who are on food stamps, So I would love to somehow get it subsidized by the government to help people that are on the lower, lower income bracket. I would love to, like, I'm hoping to have like something coming soon on our website because we get product that, like, I'm even going to hold it up right now, like, that has little damages. I don't even know if you could see it, but it's like, it's just slightly damaged right here.
Oh,
but
yeah.
it's still good. It's just harder to sell to somebody when it's slightly damaged. And so I'm even going to try to set something up on our website where we have like a damaged, whatever damaged but still edible part to our website, so that people who need the lower price, can just buy it at a lower price, things like that. But I think ultimately, like, it's about, how getting as much of this real food into people, but all the whole parts of the animal or the whole fish, uh, not just not just the muscle, making it accessible or affordable to people. And then, and really, I think what my specialty is making it as accessible as possible. So like, I made it into a seasoning here. Like I have other ideas for how to get it into people's diets effortlessly. I want to do stuff for pets as well.
Mhm.
Because pets need to eat like this. I'm like appalled by the pet industry.
Mhm.
I think it's embarrassing what we feed our pets. I just did this post recently about my dog. We have a retriever a retriever lab mix. We got her when she was 2, and the minute we got her, we put her on a raw primal diet. So it's all just raw meat with organs and bone in it, and that's what she's been on her whole life. We don't give her human food. I mean, unless it's meat from the table, like sometimes there's gristle or something we'll give to her, but we don't give her crackers. We don't give her any of those kind of biscuit things that people give their dogs. Um, we don't do that with her. And she's now 11 and she looks like she's 4. And she has none of the health issues I see all our friends' dogs that have been eating kibble that are even younger than her have. Like she looks like a young dog. And I absolutely attest that to the food. Absolutely. And and I in the reel, I kind of made a point of saying, a lot of people think eating, feeding your animal raw primal is going to be expensive, and it is, but it's still cheaper than the vet bills. And we have never had to send her to the vet ever in 10 years. We've never had her go to the vet for anything. So
That's
to me, like
amazing.
if we can do that with a dog, we can do that with humans. We just got to get everyone eating these kind of foods. And my hope is that I can do that for everyone.
I love that. So, thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you for being the mastermind behind the Organuary challenge. So I've been teasing about it. We've had Chris from Keto Chow on. He was a sponsor. We had Robert Sykes on. He was a sponsor. We're getting Bill Schindler, Dr. Bill Schindler. He's coming on next Monday night. Charles Mayfield is going to be on. And so I'm trying to reach out to all the sponsors to have them on because I think they have a great message. But first of all, why did you start it? And then kind of like take us back to that mastermind.
Well, I love that you're working with, or reaching out to all the sponsors, because we definitely it's very specific, the sponsors we ask to join. It's not just no one pays us to be a sponsor. It's all very curated. So it's that means a lot that it resonates with you. That you're recognizing that. Organuary, when we first launched in 2021, I knew I was ahead of the curve. Like I knew that the America wasn't really ready for organ meats. I knew that there were subsets that were ready, but in general, I knew that we weren't, as a nation, truly ready to kind of normalize eating organ meats. I think people still had too strong of an opinion around them, and so that's kind of what our first few years were just about, was just trying to normalize it, just try to not just give education, but normalize it, like really make it like, let's not take it so seriously. Like it doesn't have, like the fact that someone would go like, I hate organs, like to put that energy behind it. It's like, why are you putting so much energy behind it? you should be hating racism or destruction. You don't need to hate your food, and you don't also, and on the flip side, you also don't need to love your food. Like food is, we shouldn't be putting the emotions we should be giving to people towards the things that we like, food and things like that, because I think that's what causes us to get too kind of wrapped up in like these things. Like it gets too emotional when you put that kind of stimulus on things. So Organuary was a way of just saying like, well, let's have fun with the word January. Let's get people away from doing these diets that don't even last the whole year, and really focus on lifestyle change. And what's so cool is that I think this was our well, you'll know better. I think that was our 4th annual one, right?
Yep.
Yeah, because I'm already on to the 5th, so I get confused on which one we're on, because we're always so far ahead. But we've gotten feedback from people that have now done it, and they'll tell us like, I love this because it got me out of the diet culture, but I also did it and I lost weight. Like, and I'm now continuing it past the 30 days, and it's actually changing how I feel in my body. And it's like, well, that's why we're doing it, because once again, it all goes back to lasting lifestyle change. And so that's a huge advantage for it. It's making light of organ meats, because a lot of, as you already know, but for those that don't know, like when you do the challenge, first of all, it's free. But when you do the challenge, we're educating you all week. And so we're giving you like little fun things about organs. Like, we're making fun of them. We're highlighting just, I don't know, interesting things, but we're also educating you. We're also putting an emphasis on regenerative farming. We're putting an emphasis on eating whole animal, why it's important. We're putting an emphasis, and it's gone beyond just food. We put an emphasis even on, like your lifestyle, like your living, your home products, the products you put on your skin. And all to say, like, I'm very excited what it's become, because it has become, I think, I mean, you would be able to say better since you did it, but to me, it's becoming it's kind of an annual event, but one that, even though it's only 30 days or the first month of the year, that it's a 12-month experience, because most people don't stop. Like, they like how they feel and they just keep going. And then they get to do it the next year again. And I don't know. To me, that is really all that matters. Because as I said earlier in this talk, like, we can purchase any health modality we want, but if we don't do it, it's snake oil. It just doesn't matter. And so I'm only interested in the things that are lifestyle. That's the only thing that gets me excited. And to me, that's what Organuary kind of helps kickstart, is lifestyle.
Yeah, it was a fun challenge. It wasn't your typical, of course, we had done a podcast about, why uh New Year's or come on,
Yeah.
the resolutions that you
Yeah.
make, why they don't stick. And we're doing this podcast, and I'm over here doing this challenge, because it was sustainable. It was easy. It was fun. And it was like, oh my goodness, I forgot, right? Like, I forgot to incorporate this into my um, food. Like, it's just, and I mean, somehow the seasonings, the Pluck seasonings got pushed behind other seasons. It's like they're all now to the front again. Like, just, it's funny how, and we're into March, right? So I'm still, and like I said, tomorrow I'm getting a big package of Wagyu meat delivered. Like, it's like Christmas just keeps on giving here. But there's some products that, like, I had never heard of that was interesting. I know that Capra?
Mount Capra, yeah.
Yeah, all the
Goat
goat.
whey.
Oh my goodness, like they sent me, I don't know, I think practically everything, and like it's fascinating. Now I'm going to dive into like what those different products do and all that. They sent me goat ghee,
Yep.
you
Yeah, I
know.
love Mount Capra's product because I personally, uh, I don't do well with cow. Like, I just don't like how I feel when I drink dairy, whether it's raw or not. I mean, I love raw milk. Don't get me wrong, but I just find that when I do raw goat milk, I just feel better. I like
Mhm.
it better. Even though the flavors, the cow's milk tastes better to a degree, but I now goat milk doesn't taste too strong to me, but I mostly go off how I feel. And it just is, it's easier to digest on so many levels. So it's like Mount Capra has always been about goat. And so, that's a great company. So I'm happy you're trying those products out. I've been using some of them as well because they sent me some too. And, it's nice. It's clean.
Well, that's it. Yeah, cuz I mean, being in the healing journey that I've been on, and it's over 4 years now, I realize how important clean, not just the food, right, but the things I put on my body. The pharaoh skin, lard. I'm putting lard on my face, right? But I love it. And so it's just, and there were many sponsors that I had never even heard of. That was just so exciting. So I'm going to try and reach out to all of them and have them on, and my way of saying thank you. But you were the big one that I wanted on to thank you in person, because oh my goodness, this has just been phenomenal. I don't even have words to describe. I constantly, it was, I have pictures of, so we bought 50 acres here in Texas. So we're going to do regenerative homesteading and farming and all that. We're currently still living in our travel trailer, and like all these packages were showing up, and my husband's like, where are you going to put this? And I'm like, I don't know, but I'm going to find a place. We've already used the tasty uh, air
Fire.
fryer. Very impressed with that.
Yeah.
Like
I
I
use, I
can't
have one
even.
as well.
Yeah, yeah, we did pork chops last weekend in it, and so and then I bought some pork belly, so I'm going to do that in the air fryer. So I'm excited to continually use that. But the sponsors you selected were just so thoughtful.
Well, yeah, I'm so happy to hear that. y- on a certain level, it's like I never really know how everything we do affects people. I mean, of course, if someone lets us know via email or messaging, that always helps. But for the most part, we don't hear much. Like a lot of people use it, they may share it, but maybe they forget to tag us. I don't know. It's somehow like the communication pathways are never like 100%, right? So, and the same even goes with podcasts, right? There's people listening to it, but they don't necessarily let you know until maybe you see them, and you're like, I'll be at a conference and someone will say, "Oh my gosh, I've been listening to your podcast. It's my favorite podcast." I'm like, "Really?" like, it always throws me off because I don't know. I don't know. I don't
Mhm.
expect it. I don't take it for granted. So I'm just very appreciative when the resonance of what we're doing is felt. And so I appreciate how it's affected you. I'm so happy you won. And most of all, I mean, it sounds like you're feeling good. Your
Mhm.
health journey is, you can feel the progression. And I think that's what keeps us motivated, is feeling like we're moving the needle. And I think that's probably the most important as well.
Yeah. Well, and it was giving up the notion of in a year I'm going to be a size 2, right? That I had to throw out the door, and it became more about the healing process and just progressively getting better. And if it's going to take me another 10 years, okay. Because I did a lot of damage to my body for decades, right? So it's not an overnight fix. And I think that's the thing that want my clients and people that follow me personally know that um, there's there's not that. what do I call it? The the famous WW points, and and it's funny, we get questions all the time like, oh, how what do we eat? Please tell me how to eat. Right, Becky?
Mhm. All it's all the time. Like you said, people are always outsourcing it
Yeah.
instead of, I don't have a crystal ball. I don't know what, I can tell someone to eat, well, kind of going back to the dairy side of things, right? I agree with you. I have a local farm where I can source goat's milk, and I have a local farm I can get dairy milk too, or cow's milk. And it's different, but again, that's listening to my body. And I talk to several clients in a day, and everyone is a little bit different, right? And that's, I just talked to one tonight where I said we have to create what works for you. It's not a blanket statement, this is going to work for everyone type mentality. So it is truly getting back to, in your phrase, the ancestral side of things, that is truly going to end up and help the people. And that's always been our mission too, is to be able to help and reach out to the people and help them. So
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think if people are, almost like the first step is just to recognize how things are going, kind of just to recognize, oh, there might be an issue. Um, or another way to say it is look for the signs. Like it's interesting reading this, going back to this Third Plate book. He was talking about how agriculturally, and I'm going to mess up what this symbolizes, but I don't think it matters to the story. But let's just say it's phosphorus. So when there's very low phosphorus in the ground, yellow flowers will show up. These
Mm.
yellow weeds, basically. And they talk about how when the soil is healthy, the organisms can balance and they can fight off weeds. So weeds aren't an issue for healthy soil. And it's no different with our bodies, right? It's like when we have things that are popping up or chronic issues coming up, those are signals that whatever we're doing, that something is off. But before anyone even goes to working with a practitioner, you got to first recognize something's off. Like you got to first acknowledge, like, oh, something's going on and it's beyond my scope. And if it is beyond their scope, I think there's a lot that we can always do. Like I said, the 4 pillars, you can always first go back to those. Like just look at, like, am I getting good sleep? And if you're not, then I would look at a few things right away. I'd look at the light in the room. I would look at the temperature in the room. And then one thing that's really moved my health needle is going to bed at the same time every night and waking up at the same time. That consistency really does help get
Mhm.
established sleep. So those 3 things really help. And you can always start with those first things. And then with movement, are you moving at all? And a lot of times where I tell people to start is like after you eat any meal, just go for a walk, 15-minute walk. You know what I mean? If that's the least you can do, it's still something. And then with food, obviously the simplest way to go about it is just choose real food, things that are ingredients versus have ingredients. That's baseline. And then stress. That's a tough one because I would say that that's the most prevalent for everybody. Because even people that are eating really good food
Mhm.
tell you if you're stressed out or you're in a you're in a trauma state, and that could just be even you driving while you're eating, you're not going to be digesting that food well. So I could be feeding you the best food in the world, but how you're digesting it is everything. So how do we lower our stress? And the obvious thing is, well, you can meditate. And I know that's a word that's thrown around a lot, but a lot of people have kind of associations with meditation, and they think that it has to be something that it doesn't have to be, and they make it more than it has to be. There's just all these things. So the first thing I kind of say before, I think meditation is important. I'm not trying to minimize it. I think it really is. When we say meditation, we're just saying, like be in a quiet space without any stimulus and just be be in your own energy and try to focus your mind on one thing. Maybe it's a mantra or your breath or something, and just let everything else melt away. That's really all we're saying. But we can kind of co-create even smaller steps when we're eating. One thing is when you're cooking your food, instead of focusing on doing it right, focus on being joyful while you're doing it. Like focus on um, just enjoying the environment. Not necessarily, like a lot of people struggle because they think because I eat, I have to love cooking. It's like, no, you don't. You don't have to love. Most people don't. And you don't have to be good at it either. You just have to do it, because it's the only way to be healthy is to cook from home. So what I tell people to do is focus on the environment, make the environment joyful. If the actual act of cooking is not enjoyable, that still means you got to do it. So how do you get yourself in a place of joy? Maybe you're listening to your favorite podcast. Maybe you're listening to music. Maybe you're, they have the windows open so you can feel a fresh breeze. Maybe you're talking to a friend on the phone, whatever it is, but just create the environment that's going to be joyful. And then when you're going to eat that food, take a moment before you eat it, a prayer, gratitude, something, just to be present. And then here's the toughest thing that people could do. But it's, I know this is a challenging one. Sit without other stimulation. So meaning not on your screen, not watching, not scrolling, not doing anything but just eating. Now, it's easier to do when you have other people around, but I'm saying most of us usually are eating alone, and particularly at lunch, right? So it's like, can you just sit and eat? I'm telling you, people think this is like, they think that's absurd what I'm suggesting, but I'm telling you, try it. It is so hard. Just look out the window while you eat and not do anything but just be in your own thoughts. And you'll see once you try it that it is hard, but also you'll see like how much of our lives are not that anymore. Like that they are constantly being stimulated in some way, and it's resulting in us having very, very stressed out digestive issue lives.
I've worked a lot of clients with that, of sitting and taking a couple breaths before they eat and then being very present with what they're eating, because I can't tell you how many people are like, well, I can't tolerate that. I can't eat that. My stomach doesn't tolerate it. And it's not that it doesn't necessarily tolerate it. It's just their body isn't prepared to actually digest anything. So it wouldn't matter what they were technically consuming. But yeah, we've had a few different challenges within the BNC community, and it seems like getting off of electronics and connection. I mean, I'm very thankful for it because we have what we have, right? We're able to connect tonight because of technology. But you would be surprised the amount of people that is one of the hardest parts of a challenge.
Yeah.
Is that disconnect. And really,
yeah, you really have to, it has to, we have to really look at tech no different than alcohol, no different than drugs, no different than sugar, any of these kind of addictive substances that are in our current world. We have to treat it the same way, because it is something that's addictive. Like they have designed it to be addictive. They've designed it from the hardware, from the glass, the light. They've designed it to stimulate you, to create, to cause that hormonal, flux that keeps you on it. They know that the scrolling, the certain habits are going to trick your brain into just staying on it, and that's when you lose time, of course. So they're doing what the food industry is doing to the snacks and to the ultra processed foods, right? It's no different. And because of that, you really have to build guardrails. You have to build limitations on it, because if you don't, then it's gonna rule your life, and so that's one of the things that's the challenge I have for everyone listening, is like, next time you're having lunch, well, first of all, dinner, I really do believe dinner, and if you can, breakfast too, but definitely dinner, without exception, should be, if you have a family or you're in anything more than just yourself, it should be everyone sitting and eating together. I believe that's one of the most nourishing soul and physical, emotional ways that you could support yourself and your families if you just all eat together. So ideally that's dinner, but let's just say if you're eating alone at lunch, the best thing you do is just not to have any stimulus. Just give yourself that 20 minutes of not being stimulated, and just to create contrast. Because if we don't have the contrast, just like with the food, it's impossible to know what's working and what's not working, or to even be inspired towards change if you have no contrast. If you think, if you're overweight, you've got skin issues, you're not sleeping well, none of that might be an issue until you have contrast and you realize you see someone else who's your same age and they look 10 or 15 years younger. Or you see someone else who, you grew up with or something like that, and they're not as heavy as you. And you notice that they don't have the big dark lines in their eyes, whatever it is. Like we need contrast. We shouldn't be afraid of contrast because it's what motivates change. And sometimes you have to create that contrast yourself because no one else is going to do it for you.
Amen. That is so true. I know that one of the things with losing, because I'm down for my top weight, 100 pounds, so I have skin hanging. And very embarrassing, right? Until I looked at it different and went, I have skin hanging. Like, how cool is that? Because I'm not feeling all that like I've done something. And so now it's kind of like I have a scar or whatever. It's a badge of honor that I've been slowly healing my body. So I absolutely agree with that 100%. We have kept you way past time, and again, thank you so very much for your generosity of the challenge and the second time coming on our podcast. I think we're going to have to make it a yearly thing, having you back on. We love having conversation with you. You're definitely one of our fan favorites, one of my personal favorites. I love talking with you. We could go on, but we all have to get to bed tonight, so we've had a time change.
I know that is the one thing. I hope my answers weren't too loopy because I usually go to bed at like 8:30, and this is already like an hour and
Right.
basically an hour and 15 minutes past when I go to bed, because that is that goes to show you, like, when my body, it knows when it goes to bed, and when it's up after later, I'm like, I feel drunk. I'm just like, oh, so because
Absolutely.
I wake up at 4:30 every morning.
Yeah. So before we wrap up, we have another returning guest joining us next week, and who is also a sponsor of the Organuary Challenge. So Monday, March 16th at 7 p.m. Central, Charles Mayfield is coming on, and he's the founder of Pharaoh Skin. Charles is a regenerative farmer. He's very passionate about advocating for animal-based skincare, and he's just a well-rounded, grounded guy. We love having conversation with him too. So we're going to dig deeper and see what's new in his world, and of course, thank him for being a sponsor. Anything in closing where people can find you? Anything, and then we're going to let you go to bed.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, just go to eatpluck.com. You'll see all our offerings. We got 7 offerings now and more coming. And then you can find us on socials at Eat Pluck. And then please check out our podcast. It's called Everyday Ancestral, and it's a lot of fun. And yeah, there's Robert Sykes right there on the left. And yeah, there's just a lot of really great guests, and I really do enjoy talking with them and just being in that curiosity that I really believe is so important for all of us. Is just stay curious, keep listening to your body, and keep asking questions.
Absolutely. Well, with that, Becky, why don't you go ahead and end it? And thanks again, James. We really appreciate it.
Thank you
Yes,
both.
absolutely. Thank you. And for everyone else, we appreciate you listening. And for those that are listening to the replay, make sure and comment. Also, those that are listening to the streaming platforms, we appreciate you as well, as we are not sponsored. So make sure you like the episode.